Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr., and welcome to another classic movie review. I'm talking about Rear Window from 1954, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. I've talked about some of his films on this channel already. If you haven't seen those reviews, check those out. I've talked about Rope from 1948, also stars the great James Stewart. I've talked about Psycho from 1960 and North by Northwest from 1959. And this is another classic Alfred Hitchcock film. It's really all about the way this is shot, the way the dialogue scenes sort of reveal the character history, not to mention when the film starts, the way the camera pans around the room. You get a lot of information just in that sense. Yeah, this guy is a photographer. He was injured getting a really cool shot of some race cars on a racetrack that had some kind of accident because he has an injury and his leg is broken, so he's in the cast. And for the entire film, he is just sort of bound to a wheelchair and watching his neighbors. He just sort of watches things across the street because he just rather do that than basically deal with his own problems. One of them being he isn't quite sure if he wants to marry his fiancée, who is played by the beautiful Grace Kelly. I really loved her in High Noon, one of my favorite westerns of all time, with Gary Cooper. I have a review of that film on this channel if you want to check that out. It's a great movie. And she's great in this movie as his fiancée, Lisa Carol Fremont, who has money, comes from money, but the way she acts like a really down-to-earth kind of person. She is a person that enjoys her money, but she doesn't act like a snob. So the two of them seem almost perfect for each other because he's very kind of a down-to-earth person. He's even though he can't enjoy the good things in life like she does, he's very much used to sort of sleeping outside or just sort of living on out in the elements and sort of roughing it because he is this sort of kind of photographer, this freelance photographer who's just sort of out in the field. And both of them do have sort of that opposites attract kind of thing. And you get into the side of this movie where there's a sense of urgency once our main character suspects that one of his neighbors has murdered his spouse. And everyone across the courtyard really does feel like they flesh out this world, this little world that is the courtyard, that we get in a lot of moments of just seeing his reaction, seeing the reactions to what he's watching, and how he reacts, you pretty much just feel the story along with him. So you're going along with this experience in sort of a POV fashion. There are many different people across the way. There's someone that's always dancing around. He refers to as the torso, a woman that's very attractive and has guys sort of all about at times. And then there's a newlywed couple. Who, at the beginning of the film, you're introduced to them as he's sort of watching them arriving into their apartment for the first time. And there's also a couple that lives sort of above everyone that has a little dog. They lower their dog on a basket every now and then down to the ground and bring it back up on the basket. There is a man who is just kind of a musician, always sort of working on a music at the piano. And you hear the music, you hear a lot of the sounds, as far as the soundtrack goes, you hear a lot of his music at times during certain scenes as characters are talking. It's pretty neat. Really feels like a sort of a natural kind of soundtrack, really. And then there's a couple of the man and wife who are seen together a few times before. After a while, it's just the man seen by himself. And so because our main character is sort of putting two and two together and letting his mind sort of pick up the pieces, after a while he starts to suspect foul play, as they say. And the person he suspects is played by Raymond Burr, an actor who became very famous for the part of Perry Mason, very popular TV show back in the day. Everyone in this movie is great. You also have people in smaller roles that bring a lot to the table. People like Velma Ritter in the part of Stella, who is the housekeeper and sort of just a friend to our main character. They have these really cool little conversations, and she pretty much is just honest and open with him, and you really get a sense that she's kind of a confidant, and I really like their little back and forward. They have some pretty nice moments between them, James Stewart and Velma Ritter. So LB Jeff Jeffries just happens to have a friend who is a policeman who he asks to check everything out, who is played by Wendell Corey. I really like him as Detective Lieutenant Tommy J. Doyle, and he is a good friend and does what he can, but after a while, when he pretty much, his hands are tied because he doesn't find anything, it gets very interesting because he has to get creative, and that's where his fiance sort of tries to help out a bit, and then it gets really suspenseful. There's some very great moments in this movie, very tense moments, and this movie very much works as a silent film at times, just the way it goes through long stretches of time without any words whatsoever. Just what you're seeing, just what the camera is doing in terms of how it moves and what it's showing you that someone is sort of in danger and they're not aware of it. Classic Hitchcock stuff. This movie is definitely a one-of-a-kind movie experience, and this is something that I highly recommend to anybody out there who is searching out the works of the master, Alfred Hitchcock. This is definitely pure cinema, and highly recommend this. This is a 4-star classic from 1954, Rear Window. Please check this out. If anyone enjoys a good thriller, this is definitely worth it. I believe this movie can be found out there on streaming. I've seen it before on Peacock a couple times, but movies get taken off and put on different streaming services, and sometimes you got to pay a good chunk just to watch certain things. So, find it on streaming or get yourself a hard copy. There's the Blu-ray. There's James Stewart. And yeah, there he is. Another great Alfred Hitchcock movie, and very much one of the greatest films of all time. Thank you very much. Look out for more classic movie reviews. Please be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell for more notifications. Look out for the next classic movie review. Thank you very much. Peace out and God bless.